back. Got another tier list. We're about to make 3 tier lists. Well, 2, 3. I don't know how many tier lists we're gonna make. I got Brian. I got Eli. Darkroom 7, and I got Dan Snake.
Hi.
I like the thanks for 50 subscribers thing down there. We got 51 now. That's good. But anyway, we're doing video game consoles tier list, and the criteria for these is we have had to have played them in order for them to make the list. That's why not all the consoles are on here.
That's the yeah, obviously, because the Virtual Boy isn't there.
Well, Virtual Boy, and then there's also all the Sega ones as well.
Alright, the thing is, the NEX and SNES, those are actually the classic variants of each one, as opposed to the original. So otherwise, everything else is right.
Oh yeah, I think those are the classic versions.
Yeah, they are. They're supposed to be, because we're grading the classic and not the original.
Because we've played them. Are they really? Are they that much different though?
They're just really small.
Yeah, they're smaller. Okay.
Including the classic. It's weird that we're including the classic consoles, but not the original ones, even though I've played many games from the originals.
We're grading the consoles, not as much the games. But
Okay.
Half
All right.
the console's identity is its games.
All right. Anyway, we can.
Let's just get started.
All right. So what are we gonna start with?
360's first up.
Xbox 360. So Dan Snake, as you're the only one of the 4 of us that owns an Xbox 360, we'll give you your opinion. Where should the Xbox 360 go?
A or S?
I think it goes in A.
I'd say A.
It's got a lot of good games. And so how did the PS3 outsell it? I want to know.
Because the PS3 is a lot more expensive.
For me, I'd put the Xbox 360 in B tier, not because of anything wrong with it games-wise, but just because of how botched the original launch was, because of all the hardware failures.
You gotta give.
Didn't have such a high failure rate, the original model, then I would have put it higher.
You gotta say it's stuck around.
Yeah, I think it would go in A as a consensus from everyone.
I don't know. I don't think it deserves A because of all the hardware failures.
But you gotta see how long it lasted. How long it was lasting. I mean, it still was getting good games after even like the PS4 and stuff was released.
I think we can put it in B.
Yeah. I would say though the hardware stuff was bad.
Have good games. I would put it in A tier if it didn't have hardware failure problems.
Okay.
Xbox One's next up.
And all the variants.
Are we counting just the original model or all?
I guess we just can.
Grading all the models.
Yeah. Dan Snake, this one's for you again.
Alright, so if I were to think about this, if I had to come up with like a compromise, it'd be either A or B for like if you combine all of them, because the original launch was trash. However, the Xbox One X is pretty good in that it has true 4K. And the One S isn't anything to shake your finger at either.
I think there are a lot of good variants. I think it doesn't have too many compelling games. Like
The game library isn't
good
as strong,
but they're not really.
They did fix a lot of the. They did do it justice in a way with the One S and X.
I don't know if I want to put it in C. I feel like the 360 is
B at lowest. B at lowest.
I don't think it deserves C. I mean, the One S and the One X, like I said, like they really made the original one better.
Alright, let's put it in B.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, we're moving on to the 4 current PlayStations. PS5 is coming out soon, but that's not out yet, so we can't include it. Let's start with the PS1. The only complaint I have about you're the one that has one. We'll let you speak first. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be a solid A tier because a lot
of good games and franchises came from the original PlayStation. Like, you've got Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, and then Final Fantasy VII was on the PS1, which was one of the most famous games of all time.
I like the PS1. The only thing I have against it is it's very short cord length with the controller, but I guess it's more with the controller, not with the system itself.
And you got to think of like what the TVs were at that time. They weren't like massive ones that we have now. They were definitely smaller, so you weren't expected to be as far away from them to have
right. Yeah.
that you do now.
Okay. Yeah. I guess it's more of a controller complaint, anyways, not the system, anyways. Things.
Random fact.
Oh, random
You know
fact.
that when the PlayStation controller was released in North America, that was 10% bigger.
Yeah, we have fat people.
Because apparently, Japanese people, according to Sony, had smaller hands.
I mean, it's not too far-fetched.
Okay.
Anyway, PS2. PS2 has to go S tier. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's a DVD player. It's a great console. It lasted forever.
Yeah.
And it had so many good games for it.
Also, it's the number one selling console of all time.
Wait, Dancing, what'd you say?
I actually wonder what the actual best-selling console of all time is.
It's PS2.
It's either PS2 or Wii.
DS, I think, might be a little bit higher, but that's technically a handheld, so it's... I don't know, PS2 and DS are right up there with each other. But then PS4, I think, is next, and Wii.
Okay.
PS3 is next. I think it does not get to go any higher than C.
I say C.
The
C.
PlayStation 2 and the DS family are the highest-selling consoles of all time.
I think this thing goes in C tier. I don't know why it was $600.
It was so expensive.
The PS3, God, yeah. Honestly, I put it at B tier max because it didn't really give a lot of games because it was hard to develop for, and of course it had that huge price tag, which completely bonked it.
They made a good comeback in the second half. I think it has a C.
They did. When they released the Slim model, that's when stuff started improving, but honestly, the 600s, even $700 price tag in some areas at the very start did not do anything good for it.
Especially since it was released right at the beginning of a recession. So... Okay.
I think this deserves to go in A tier.
A or S, definitely.
I think it goes A tier. I don't know if it's on the PS2's level, but it's got some really nice exclusives. It's got... I just realized it's the PS4 Pro that I put in that picture, but it's still got a lot of great exclusives. So many people have it. It's just great experience overall.
I think the one thing keeping the PS4 from S tier is Sony's butthurt stance on cross-compatibility.
I don't know, it makes sense financially, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, they're just doing it out of corporate greed. They just don't care at all.
Yeah, that makes
Like,
sense.
they're extremely sensitive about it, and whenever someone brings it up, they always act like they're the ones who are being attacked.
Yeah. My favorite thing about the PS4 is the screen recording ability, so that I can get some good quality on games without a lot of cord and...
Any console with a decent built-in screen recorder is always a plus. Like how the Oculus Quest has a screen recorder.
Yeah.
Include the Oculus crap.
Well, I mean, those are VR headsets are really their own thing. Like, they're their own league of console. Yeah, so let's... So,
Okay.
The NES Classic-ish. I think we can grade the original and the Classic together, since we played the Classic and we sort of know what it's like.
I have played it. And, I mean, you can get like
the original.
You can get a taste of what it was like from the Nintendo Switch Online service.
Only the games, though. You can't get, like, the actual console itself.
Well, I mean, honestly, consoles back then weren't anything really more than games.
I guess, yeah.
I'd say that the NES/NES Classic would probably go in S tier just because of all the stuff that it laid the ground for. It single-handedly saved the video game market in North America. It gave us Mario, it gave us Zelda, it gave us Metroid, which are all three extremely popular franchises to this day and have influenced so much.
Yeah.
Your point with the hardware issues of the Xbox 360, the NES has a lot of the original model.
Yeah,
top loader model.
I have heard of those, but it's not like the 360 where if it happens, it's basically dead. With the NES, it's fixable almost all the time.
I'm guessing SNES Classic is gonna go pretty high too. SNES Classic.
I would say so.
Definitely set the standard for what a classic console should be.
PlayStation Classic was garbage.
Yeah.
Wait, there was a PlayStation Classic.
Watched a lot. Oh my god.
There was a PlayStation Classic, believe it or not.
Believe it or not.
The SNES Classic can go in F tier as well, or you move to A tier.
Moving on.
6 hours on VR chat today.
N64.
N64.
I've never played an N64.
I don't think it deserves to go in like S or A. I think it should go in like B-ish.
I'm thinking A or B because even though it did give us Mario 64, probably like the example of what a 3D platformer should be like. It was basically the game that everyone looked at when it was how to put something in 3D. However, because of Nintendo's decision to go with cartridges, it really hurt their third-party support for it. So I don't think that it's an S tier, but I do think that it is at least A tier at best because of the games that it did have, in spite of lacking third-party.
I would say B just because of the cartridges.
Oh, yeah. Well, this doesn't exactly do with the console itself, but more its controller. But you know the infamous stick failures.
And
Yeah.
the three-prong design in general is very...
Well, the three-prong, that's more of a controller part. We shouldn't judge it on the actual layout of the controller, but the controllers themselves did have some hardware failure, but that was after a long time. So it wasn't...
The other thing I would say is that these games don't age great. They're still really fun, but like... Well, like the first-person shooters and stuff don't age well.
The games either... Well, I agree with you to a point. The games, they either age very poorly or they age very well, like Mario 64 and Mario Kart 64. Those are still very fun games to play.
Mm-hmm. Also, Ocarina of Time.
Yeah. Yeah, like the big first-party games on the N64 have probably some of the best... they've probably aged the best out of some retro games.
Okay. Wii has to go S.
Yeah, I would agree with that because it was literally a stardom success story. Like that thing blew up.
Yeah, I mean like
it brought Mario Kart Wii, which introduced a lot of new stuff to the franchise, which was really nice for it.
Well, the big thing it did was motion controls, and it was like
and it did them. Actually, in any first-party game that the Wii had, it did the motion controls anywhere from moderately well to very well.
Anyways, personally, I would put it at like A because there was a lot of shovelware on the Wii.
Yeah, there was a lot of shovelware for the Wii. I will admit.
I think it would go with A as well. I don't know. This was my childhood too, but I think it's definitely really good. It's got a lot of good games, and it really uses the motion controls well. But just all of the bad experiences kind of
Yeah.
Also, a lot of major games at the time of the Wii's life didn't come out on the Wii.
True, because they couldn't, with the motion controls, they really couldn't include that into the game.
It wasn't the problem of there being motion. The motion controls are 100% optional. It's not that they couldn't implement motion controls into it. It's that the Wii was underpowered compared to the PS3 and the Xbox 360.
True. Another good thing about the Wii was its backwards compatibility with GameCube games. Backwards compatibility with that. That's a good thing.
That was a good plus. That was a good thing that they did that.
Okay, anyways,
Wii U's. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, do we want, when we grade the Wii U, do we want to talk about its marketing campaign? Marketing campaign is an F. Or do we want...
all the aspects of the console.
I think it should be like B. I mean, it's a good experience, but it really just...
I think it gets...
too much on what the Wii did.
It gets...
It wasn't
no higher than C.
Everyone.
I'm thinking either C or D tier because the name, although not confusing to me, did confuse a lot of consumers, especially like people that were more uninformed in the market. The gamepad wasn't exactly used to its full potential, and whenever it was tried to be used to its full potential, it was just botched horribly. Like Star Fox Zero is a shining example. It just clunked up the gameplay and just did not work.
Except Mario Maker.
Yeah, it did have good games, but it was outweighed.
It got carried by its game library. You have to say it got carried by its game library. It had a legendary game library, but it was.
Yeah. It did get passed up by the Switch, though, so even now there's not really a reason to go back to it, because all its big games have either been ported in a way, or aren't really that appealing anymore.
Or they just got direct sequels.
Yeah. And then, of course, the battery life of the gamepad wasn't exactly that great.
And it had horrible storage space, too.
Well, the original model, 32 gigabytes.
Are you kidding me?
That's BS.
Yeah, the 32 gigabytes should have been the standard one. 8 gigabytes is not enough for a modern console, even back then.
Okay. Moving on to its predecessor, the newest console on this list, the Switch. Successor, never mind. But the newest one on this list, the Switch. I think the Switch, I don't know, should it go, it's A or S, obviously.
I think it should put it in A.
I think it should go S, just because it's such a unique console compared to the other consoles, and it's offered a way to play that no other console in history really has, where it can be a home console if you want it to be, or portable, and not just that, but the execution of it was very well done. It's almost seamless to transition between TV and handheld.
So
Especially I put it like an A or B.
I think A, because especially if you're talking about, like, the battery life isn't very good. They fixed that a bit, though, and all of the Joy-Con problems kind of ruin it. I think...
Those are the Joy-Con. Those are the Joy-Cons, though.
I put it in B because of, like, several problems. Joy-Con drift is a big one.
I mean, that's more the controller, though. Like the N64's stick, it's more of a controller.
Yeah, well, controllers matter a whole lot. Remember the Atari 5200?
A number pad controller. Yeah, let's have a telephone as a video game controller. That was a great idea.
That's one.
But anyways, that's for the game controller thing. But anyway, now we're moving on to the handhelds. I guess we kind of merged over from console to handhelds with the Switch, but we're moving on to full handhelds, starting with the Nintendo DS.
Switch is it's a hybrid.
DS.
DS was...
I'd say S.
Just
because of how well it sold, being the best-selling handheld of the best-selling handheld family of all time, it had really, really, really good games on it, and the library was absolutely enormous.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I mean, it even had a headphone jack for it didn't need that, but it made everything so nice. And the original and light models had GBA backwards compatibility, which automatically boosted the library even more.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
3DS is next. I don't think it should go as high.
B.
I think it should go in B tier.
B.
I think 3DS is... I think it's either going to be A or B, because it does have some really good games, but there was just some stuff with it that didn't go well. Like, the 3D...
The 3D was absolute shit.
Used good at first. Within the first year or two, it started to decline very, very quickly, and 3D was practically gutted by the end of the system's life.
Especially since they released stuff like 2DS XL.
Right here, on my copy of Pokemon Ultra Moon, on the front it says playable in 2D. Some areas are also playable in 3D. There is not a single location in this entire game where the 3D is used.
In fact, If I was to honestly think, the only game which required 3D was Super Mario 3D Land, and that was only for like specific areas.
Right, yeah.
And even then, you could do it. You could do it without that.
The 3D was also... The 3D also didn't really work.
Were pretty good, like Super Mario 3D Land, Mario Kart 7.
The 3D didn't really even work, though. That's the thing. Like, it just turned into a big blur.
Well, it didn't turn in... Probably because you were holding your console at an angle. The first model, you have to look at it straight on. If you're tilting it, it's going to get blurry. But the models that came after it did introduce eye tracking 3D, which fixed that issue. So it wasn't the fact that it was blurry. It was more the fact that people tended to hold the console at weird angles sometimes, which would blur it. Or not turn the 3D all the way up, which could also do that.
Alright. The Game Boys.
Oh, right. Well, since I have both of these consoles...
Well, I have a Game Boy Pocket, which I guess we're fitting into the original Game Boy section.
I've got the original big boy here, though. I'd say the Game Boy is probably... I'd say it's probably an A tier.
It was great for...
The screen isn't the best. And, of course, you know, it has a lot of limitations to it. But it's got really good games. And for what it was, it did really well. Like, the screen...
For its time, yeah.
For its time, like, its competitors did have lit and color screens, but the fact that the Game Boy was able to keep costs down by not having that made it sell really well. And also... The freaking console is a headphone jack. Like, that's just... Why does it have GBA speed? Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, just the legacy the Game Boy is left behind is so good. And then, of course, you got the GBA, which I would probably put in A tier, just because, you know, it's more or less just an improved Game Boy. It's got really good games, though. Just like the Game Boy, it's got really good games. You know, you've got the third generation of Pokemon. You've got the Super Mario Advance series, the NES classic series of games, or Advance series. I forget what it's called exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say both of those are worth A tier. Okay.
All right. Well,
controllers.
we're gonna do those in a minute. We gotta wrap up this one. We gotta end this one. Alright guys, so our final wrap up, we got 4S, 6A, 4B, 2C, no D, no E, and no F. But alright guys, that's it. Game consoles, tier list. And again, this is just consoles that we have played or we have experience with. So no Sega consoles on here, and there's a few others we left out. We're gonna do game controllers next. So stay on the lookout for that. Till then, guys, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.